Hey, what's up? This is Chris. You can call me Lao Lei. I've been making these videos about how to get in from now in China if you don't know Chinese. In the first one, we talked about YouTube, which channels to follow, which videos to watch. And it kind of turned out that YouTube, sadly, isn't the best resource when it comes to China. Like, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda either way. It's very scattered. And generally, the level of quality is just really fluctuating. So that's YouTube. I was very happy to make the second episode and talk about podcasts, because I think if you're going to invest a little bit of time, you're going to listen to some quality podcasts about China, which there are a lot of, you're going to actually learn a lot. So that was good. Today I want to talk about the media, which I do realize is a little bit difficult, because a lot of people, no matter where they stand politically, they have their issues and their grievances with what they think is the media. And when it comes to China, it seems like a lot of people, they think that the media, scare quotes, is biased against China. Again, scare quotes. The reason why I'm using the scare quotes is because I think in this statement, the media doesn't exist, just as China also doesn't exist. Let me explain. If a person came up to me and they're like, Chris, the media, they're biased against China, you know? I'm really like, which media are you talking about? Are you really saying all of the media, without fail, are monolithically against China? Like all of them. That includes Fox News, the New York Times, Breitbart, and Grey Zone, just to name a few. All of these are a block and they're all against China. Is that what you're saying? Obviously not. So you would have to specify which media outlets, which parts of the media are you even talking about? That's one thing. The second thing is China it's kind of the same issue. I would have to ask, like, are you really saying that these media that we're talking about, they're biased against the whole of China? Like, on what grounds? Like racially, the racists, or like they have some sort of cultural superiority complex? They just don't like China as a whole? 1.4 billion people, no good? Or is it more like they might be critical of the Communist Party of China, which still is like 90 million people and a lot of different factions, different ideologies. Like, they might be critical towards Maoism. They might be critical towards Dengism. These two are very different. They might be critical against Xi Jinping, the current government, and his ideology. Still has no name, called it Winnieism. Which one is it? Are they critical of Chinese economic policies, social policies, foreign policies? Are they worried about the environment in China? Are they worried for social minorities, ethnic minorities, human rights? What is it exactly? Right? Because, as an example, if you're going to look at tech coverage from tech publications, let's say from the States, there's going to be a lot of positive coverage of what's happening in the tech sector in China. They're gonna do puff pieces about, Chinese people don't use cash anymore. They got these apps now, or like some ride sharing app, or some bike app, or whatever. Do you really not see this? Or when it comes to economic news, trade news, or when it comes to infrastructure stuff, like, China has so many new highways now. They got high-speed trains, bullet trains, they got tall buildings. Do you really not see that stuff? Like, or is that for you, that's not part of China coverage? Is it like you're reading coverage of the human rights situation in China, which is atrocious, and then you think because people are genuinely worried about the human rights situation in China that they don't like China as a whole? Is that what you're getting at? So having said that, I would like to introduce a few media outlets that I think are good, that are basically reliable when it comes to China. And I gotta say basically, because they too can fuck up sometimes. It happens. Like, they're not without fail, but I think they're good. A lot of these names, if you're a little bit media savvy, they're not gonna be anything new to you, but I endorse them anyway. So here we go. The first, let's start this way. If you're into news coverage and investigative journalism, I think there's two names, both from the States, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. That's where it's at. That's kind of the pinnacle of it, really. That's the best. Say what you will about the New York Times, as an example, about, I don't know, their editorial department, their coverage of domestic politics in the States, their op-eds, which can be horrible. I agree. But their China department is fucking A. Like really, it is so impressive. They got these people there. They got really skilled, really hardworking journalists. They got very good stringers, these people that work for them. I'm just gonna drop one name, Chris Buckley, Australian guy. I don't know of a single person who is seriously interested in China, like coming from, doesn't matter if they're coming from a journalist background, academic background, business background. If somebody is seriously interested in China, they've probably heard that name. And if they've heard that name and read that guy's stuff, Chris Buckley's stuff, they're probably in awe of the guy. Like the guy is really immersed in Chinese culture, speaks the language well, has spent a lot of time there. He has his finger on the pulse. He knows what's going on in China. And one thing that I really appreciate is you can feel a sense of sympathy towards ordinary Chinese people and Chinese culture from his writing. It doesn't matter if he's being critical about, I don't know, systemic stuff. At the same time, you're going to feel this sense of sympathy from Chris Buckley to the Chinese people. And so, yeah, this is the New York Times. Amazing. Wall Street Journal, kind of the same. They got Josh Chin working there. They are really brave and really thorough investigative reporters. They did some amazing stuff. I gotta say because both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal sadly had a lot of their reporters and journalists kicked out of China by the Communist Party. So now what's left isn't really that much from these news outlets. There's other news outlets, mainly from other countries that are still working there, but the media landscape in China took a large hit from this decision of the Communist Party to kick them out. Now I would say still, I endorse the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. I also endorse the Washington Post, maybe not to that kind of level, but also I endorse them. I also endorse the BBC. The BBC has been getting a lot of hits. You might have heard the name pop up lately because people are like saying, oh, they're biased against China. A lot of this is just ridiculous. It's kind of like the BBC has been remaining in China, so they're kind of the spearhead now. And they've been getting a lot of flack for just ridiculous stuff. Like, for example, one thing was they made a video where they spliced in some footage that was taken, I don't know, a year earlier or something like that. So in order to make that footage look different to the viewer, so the viewer would know, oh, this is not from now, this is from a year ago, they kind of color graded the footage differently, so it would look more gray. To which the Communist Party or like their media outlets, they responded by saying, you're trying to make China look gray and depressing by, tinting the footage this way, which is obviously ridiculous. They were just saying like, this was from a year ago, something that you do you can just see that stuff in a Hollywood movie where they'd be like, oh, this is in the past, let's take the color out a little bit so people understand it's from the past. So yeah, follow them if you're into news coverage, if you're into investigative journalism. There's obviously more, but I don't want to talk too long here. So these are just 4 names. If you're into long form writing, like let's say analytical writing about China, I would endorse Foreign Policy. They have an amazing, I think the guy is the China editor. I'm not sure if he's the main editor or the China editor, but anyways, his name is James Palmer, amazing guy. The stuff that they do about China is really good. Foreign Policy. If you're more into like human interest or like story-driven, long-form writing, I'd say The New Yorker, most of all. They got Peter Hessler working for them. They have Evan Oznaz. He's more on the domestic beat now in the States, but he used to do stuff about China. I'd also say The Atlantic. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jia Yangfan is writing for The Atlantic, also amazing. So these 3, if you want to read some more long-form stuff. Now, I would like to do something that seems kind of surprising. I would like to introduce and endorse an official state-owned Chinese medium. They're called Sixth Tone. It's an English-speaking medium operated by the Communist Party of China, or like controlled by them, let's put it that way. It's state-owned. It's really surprising. This thing is sort of an enigma. Like, I remember when it came out a few years ago, people were looking at it like, what's this Sixth Tone? Like, again, the Chinese Communist Party is putting out another propaganda outlet like Global Times or China Daily, which are just ridiculous. But no, they actually put together a serious editorial department with really good editors. They found some good writers, some good investigative journalists. They have a good picture desk, and they actually do critical stuff. Like really they do. Like detailed, critical, well-produced stuff. What they don't do is they're not going to go as far as really like criticize the system or the central government. You can't really expect that from them within China, within the system. And sometimes the editors are going to hint at that. They're going to say like, well, there was a story here, like on Twitter. They're just going to write a tweet and be like, there was a story here, but you know, wink, wink, story is gone. But what they do is like they go to remote places. They might be critical of a local government or of local, I don't know, business conglomerates or just local policies. And a lot of that stuff is really, really valuable. Sixth Tone. If you're interested in China, Sixth Tone. Understand that this is Chinese Communist Party owned and operated, but still it's good. What I'm hoping for is that the Chinese government is going to understand that this is the stuff that is going to be good for them too. Like, I don't think that, for example, canceling the reporters from the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal is really doing the Chinese government a favor, because in the past, the modus operandi was kind of like local media, when they find something that is too hot for them, like they're investigating and they find something and they're like, we can't print this, we can't talk about this because that's going to get us in trouble, but we still want this to be talked about. They would kind of pass this on to foreign media and then they would pursue it because they're kind of safer. These stories coming out, in the end, or let's put it this way, in a short term, they might hurt the government because, you know, it might be something negative. But I think in the end, in the long term, it helps the government to understand what's going on. Like to get this information out there. It helps if the population is informed. And so, yeah, I don't know if, I have my doubts. I think Xi Jinping's government, they're not going to understand this. I'm surprised at the Sixth Tone that it still exists, to be honest. But, you know, never hurts to hope. So there's that, Sixth Tone. One medium that I would endorse, kind of with a caveat, is the South China Morning Post from Hong Kong. They used to be really good on China, brave, well-connected, but in the last few years, they've been kind of slacking. It kind of mirrors the downfall of Hong Kong. It also kind of mirrors the fact that they got bought by Jack Ma and Alibaba. I don't know about the causal connection there, but yeah, their quality has been kind of lacking. One last thing that I would like to endorse. I don't know if this qualifies as a medium, but I guess it does. It's a newsletter. It's called Cynicism. It's being put out by one guy, Bill Bishop. And this is kind of on the level of Chris Buckley, in the way that really anybody who is seriously interested in China is going to know this name, and they're going to have read this stuff, and they're going to be kind of in awe of this guy, Bill Bishop. Like, yeah, the guy knows a lot about China, has been really immersed in the culture, knows the language well, is very well connected, and he puts out this newsletter, like I think 3 times a week or something. Sometimes there's a free issue, so you can check it out. It's called Cynicism. I'm going to put all the names into the description. If you're into China, if you have the time to read the newsletter, because it's not short, it's not going to be a tweet. This is really valuable for you. So yeah, this was my endorsement of mainly just written media, online or offline. That's it. Yeah, I don't have a good way to end this video except for read more. Peace.